Now, I'm sure you know about the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. It's one of the most important think tanks in the country, and their work highlighting the shortcomings of our Defence Force and the threat of the CCP is invaluable. That's why we interview them here at Sky all the time. We need their insights. But now ASPI Executive Director Justin Bassi has said that the Albanese government is trying to rein in their work after a review that decided bureaucrats should control their research agenda. So essentially, they'll be forced to come back with stuff that says what the government wants them to say. Joining me now is Liberal MP and former ADF Commando Keith Wallahan. Keith, seems pretty clear why the government would want to do this because, of course, ASPI has been outspoken about the threat of China. Albanese has been cozying up to China. You'd have to think they're like, oh, well, we cannot possibly have anyone speaking out against what's really going on here.
Caleb, I'm coming to you from outside of school. It's school graduation season, so I haven't checked for sprinklers, but if they go off, I apologise in advance. I know it's a work hazard these days.
Well, it make good television anyway. I'm sure there are plenty of viewers who wouldn't mind a politician getting sprayed.
That's right, that's right. So if I get some, it was the students doing it. This is a really, really important thing that has happened. We are seeing a crucial think tank that has been critical of both sides of politics on defence. And as a former ADF member, I know that the Department of Defence or the Department of Foreign Affairs doesn't get it right all the time. So to have that outside voice is important. And to have a member of the bureaucracy sit on the board, it's not that there will necessarily be a hardcore influence, it's the soft influence. It's knowing that that person is sitting there and knowing that your funding has to be reviewed every 5 years. You know that's going to compromise their independence. And it's not just actual compromise, but the apprehension of compromise in the same way that we look at the apprehension of bias. So this is really concerning, and I do call on the government to reconsider their position, and the coalition certainly will be reviewing this.
Well, there's no other reason to do it than if you want to influence the outcomes of the think tank, right?
Well, we've seen the reports, online, all of the leaks saying that the government members are unhappy with the positions taken by ASPI, and unhappy because of the criticisms of their decisions, of their actions and of their inaction. And a government to respond to that in this way is really authoritarian, and it's disturbing. So the government calls on us as a coalition to defer to the experts, whether it's the CSIRO or AEMO, but it seems like they're quite selective when they ask for independent advice to be given. And I just imagine this. Imagine the coalition was calling for the CSIRO funding to be reviewed every 5 years. There's no way that would be tolerated, and we wouldn't put that to the people.
I'm not suggesting that this is why it's happened, as in, the CCP's picked up the phone to Albo and said, get rid of ASPI. But how much do you think the link between the Albanese government and China, and they've made a great effort during their time in government to suck up to China, how much of that do you think plays into this decision?
Well, both sides of politics value the trade that we have with China. It's our largest trading partner, but it's important that we are clear-eyed about that. And what concerns me is that the 14 demands that were made years ago, this was one of them. So that should cause the government to pause, because it does look like capitulation to those 14 demands. And those 14 demands were unreasonable and they didn't work. And I would have hoped that is something that both sides of politics recognise. We don't want to set a precedent where similar demands are made in the future. So because it was in that list, that is an extra reason why this should not occur.